Aloha StandFast community. This is Katie, your Senior VP of Programming, and I have a super special guest with me today, one of our peer coaches. Allie is going to be sharing a little bit about herself, what it means to be a peer coach, and what she's learned about biofeedback and the importance of this type of training, especially as the first responder and military community, and during these crazy times of pandemic and constant shifting and adapting. So I first want to introduce Allie and what this whole peer coach thing means. So Allie is in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and she is a coordinator for the Live Strong program and is also a personal trainer. And so again, I'm super delighted to have you here to talk about what it means to be a peer coach. So to give a little bit of background about that, peer coaches are folks that are really passionate about the StandFast mission of teaching resilience training to others. We see them as our ambassadors, our force multipliers. So they go through a training course through HeartMath to be certified, to be able to talk about biofeedback and offer that in one-on-one sessions as well as small training groups. So again, Allie, super grateful for your time to talk about your experience. And
happy to be here.
I think the first thing that we want to know about is like, how did you learn about this and how did you decide that you wanted to become a peer coach?
Right. Well, it's a great program. First of all, I'm really excited to talk about it. So Eve Buka is the one that first introduced me to this, and in her explanations of it, it really just it hit home because of certain things that I have faced in my life as a military spouse, and I was just excited to learn more about different methods of coping and resiliency and breathing, and ways that that's beneficial. And so she got me excited. I started the HeartMath training for peer-to-peer coaching, and yeah, here I am now, and I'm using it for myself and for the program, the Live Strong program with cancer survivors, working with them as well as military and military spouses and families. The kids, got to remember the kids too. It's very beneficial for kids, just like the other groups. So it's a great program. Yeah.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about like the certification process and some of the things that you learned from HeartMath?
Sure. HeartMath, it's a class, and so you go week by week. You have different chapters. You're reviewing the information. You're really getting the science behind what you're doing with biofeedback, and it puts it in a way where you can break down exactly what's happening and how the breath is working in building your resiliency. And so for me, being able to put different models with what I was learning was important. And that's what the training gave me. And we also had a time where we could work with other peers that were doing the HeartMath training. And so we could put what we were learning into practice. And then also at the end, we took on 2 different clients of our choosing and worked with them while going through the class. So we were learning in an active way and still getting feedback from the class that we were taking. And that was really helpful to see it, the process in action.
Awesome. That sounds like it's a really nice balance of like kind of like academic and like education, but also that like real-time application to yourself and others so that you could really hone in and fine tune that skill. So that sounds super beneficial. And I love how often you're bringing up families, right? And the importance that everybody have an understanding of the benefits of this tool and can use that in their life. This is a very broad base. And so that's really beneficial that people can teach this to their kids along with using it for themselves. And that's really important for this community. So I appreciate you highlighting that. something that I want to sort of like demystify. I think sometimes when we use words like biofeedback, that's kind of this big like academic term. But really, biofeedback is just a mechanism of learning something that's happening within our body. So when you go to the doctor and you have your heart rate taken, that's a form of biofeedback. So any time that we can see something that's happening internally outside of ourselves, that's a mechanism for biofeedback. So Allie, do you mind talking a little bit more about the emwave and like what it's actually showcasing to you through that software program?
Sure, sure. So the emwave, it's a program on our computer, on our phone, and we're going to hook up to that. It gets your heart rate. And so as you are going through these different breath practices, these breathing practices, you're seeing your breath on the computer. So biofeedback, there you go. I break it down even further in saying biofeedback can be looking in the mirror at the start of the day. And, like for females, we're not going to put on our makeup without a mirror usually, like we want that. We want to see what's happening. And so this is really, it's beneficial to be able to see what is happening internally as you slow your breath and how your coherence levels change just by, focusing on your breath coming in and out of your body. Something so simple. It's an autonomic process that we do, but it's the one that we can control, which we don't think about. We take breathing for granted, quite frankly. We go about our day and we're just breathing, but we don't realize when we get uptight or nervous what's happening. And so the heart math program, the emwave, it just showcases that. So it helps us. And so we learn, like when we start worrying, we start ruminating over, gosh, what happened this morning? Like I've got so much to do. Thinking in the past, the present, future, is just like, just crazy monkey brain. And the emwave, it just really brings us back to the present. And we can see that. And so then later on down the line, 5 minutes later, even the next day, whatever, you can recall that and say like, oh gosh, I'm really starting to breathe heavy, or I'm like my mind is racing about the task that I have to do for the day. And yes, I learned that just I need to calm down for a second and focus, just for a few minutes even. And I really like that there's many different ways you can, different counts you can do, but just inhale for 5, exhale for 5, and just focus on that. And when you're focusing in on your breathing, your mind isn't able to wonder. You're present. And so it's beneficial for the rest of your day to take that small time to focus on your breath.
Yeah, I love so many things that you're highlighting about like how easy it is for us to help to regain ourselves, right? So when I think about the definition of resilience that StandFast is anchored into, it's that ability to prepare for, recover from, and adapt to any change, stress, or adversity that's happening. And I mean, these are really stressful times. I think we need to really be honest and transparent and real that the amount of stress that everyone is experiencing right now, and especially our first responder and military community, is ongoing. I mean, in the conversations that I'm having with my friends and colleagues that are at the front line of defense for this battle right now, it's just this incessant, response to phone calls and dealing with changes in protocols and dealing with different changes in how we're interacting with the community and what is acceptable and not acceptable right now. And it's just, it can be very, yeah. I mean, it can really just suck so much energy from us. And so what I appreciate that you're highlighting is our breath, first and foremost, is always with us. And it's something that we tend not to actually think too much about. And yet it can also be something that's so grounding. And when we think about self-regulation, I mean, the first piece that you're highlighting is just that awareness. So, what is happening with my body? What is happening with my heart rate right now? Am I feeling stress and tension? What does that look like? Can I take a couple really deep breaths to help recenter myself? And so, even if people don't have access to emwave or, want to go out and buy the program, just knowing that we can just slow ourselves down just by focusing on our breath is
Right.
super powerful. So I'm curious if you don't mind sharing, like, what have been some recent times, like, as a military parent, as a person who's now having to take care of your kid while working at home and dealing with school being at home and so many different shifts in like the way that things are should be but are being shifted a lot right now. Like,
Sure.
what have been some real concrete examples of you using that right now?
Okay. Right now, today. Let's start with that.
Yes.
So today, yeah, so many things. Um, so my son is now doing virtual first grade, which started this week, and that I feel like I need to start the day with deep breaths, otherwise things unravel quickly. And then throughout the day, if it's a long day for all of us. Zoom all day it's a long day, and so there, my son starts to lose interest quickly, and trying to get him to refocus, um, it can be very cyclical. So
Yes, absolutely.
I tell him to refocus. It doesn't happen. I get frustrated. He gets frustrated. It's constant. It's a perpetual. Um, yeah. And then there's distractions. My dog right now is a distraction.
That's great.
So yeah, yes. So it's constant. And I have a 2-year-old. And so she's needing a lot of attention as well. And so I catch myself many times throughout the day, just like, oh my gosh, like just frustrated with the world. Everything seems to be crashing in on once. And if I take a moment to breathe and realize that I need to be grateful that we're able to all be home and that we're well, and breathe through that. I think gratitude is a really big one for me, and that this breathing, these methods help me realize that. So that's right now. Being a military spouse, we move quite frequently. There's deployments, there's trainings, there's a lot of time when my husband's, just training. He's on a training mission, and I've got 2 kids that supporting at home, and it's tough. It's tough to single parent, and so making sure that I'm my best for them is big. And also to be that support for my husband as well. So there's a lot of things that we all carry, whether we're military spouses or we're the soldier or the first responder or whatnot. Like, we all have many things on our shoulders, and so this is just one of the ways that we can really kind of understand, like, we all have our struggles, but this is what I can do about it. So yeah, and just knowing that, I think knowing that you can do something is so beneficial. Having something you can control, as
Yeah.
little as it might seem, it's huge. I mean, it's so big. So yeah.
Yeah. As
So
I'm
yeah.
hearing you talk through this, I'm just feeling more and more empowered, even though we're not actually doing
Yeah.
anything right now. But I
Yeah.
think when we can really understand like that controllability piece and just understanding that there are so many things happening in our environment right now that we simply can't control. And so we really have to always remind ourselves of I can be in control of what I'm thinking, what I'm focusing on. I can be in control of my body through this breath work, which you're talking so much about. And then you also hinted at that emotional shift, which I so appreciate you bringing up as well, and the impact that our emotions have on our bodies. And that this program also helps us to see that too is, when we're stressed, when we're frustrated, frustrated, when we're panicked, when we're overwhelmed, that's having a direct impact on our bodies. And not only just focusing on those low, slow, rhythmic breaths, which is a huge part of being able to regain that sense of self, but also capitalizing on what we know about gratitude. Gratitude is a positive emotion that has the ability to undo that yucky psychological response that comes along with all those changes in our bodies and allows our body to relax. I mean, I'm going to be doing another video, which I'm so excited that you're like teeing me up for, to talk about Barb Fredrickson's work on positive emotions and the undoing effect that they have on our body. So when we can combine the power of our breath and regaining that and focusing on that, as well as nudging in some gratitude, some positive emotion, something that we are happy for, going to our happy place in our brains, right? Like it's really incredible how quickly that can shift things for us. And I mean, when we think about the decisions that have to be made right now and the problems we're having to solve and just that ongoing stress, if we can just give ourselves that mini timeout before we go into the next stressful event, I mean, that sounds like a life changer, a game changer, really.
Right, definitely. And I think there's ways that people can take those mini timeouts. You know, for everybody, it might look differently. Say they don't have the emwave equipment to use. You know, for me, if I don't get up a little early before the kids get up in the morning and go for a run or get a workout in, and the day's not great. You know, everything seems to kind of fall apart more quickly. And I believe that is because I'm actively using or regulating my breath in a way, you know, like, so I'm not sitting there thinking about my inhale and exhale, but it's something I have to do. When I'm running, I can't breathe extra quickly. I can't do these things. I can't get uptight and nervous. It's a good way for my mind to wander, to kind of just check out for a little bit. And so taking that break, just like you were saying. So I think if somebody has a way to, you know, if you like lifting weights, like take a quick break, lift some weights, you know, like go on a quick jog, go on a walk. I mean, walking is super beneficial, and we all have access to walking, even if it's, you know, walking up and down your stairs or taking a quick walk outside, you know, like everybody can walk, and just like everybody can breathe. And it's just like mentally taking that break, taking that time out is super beneficial. So.
Yeah. And sometimes we do just need that distraction. We need some form of escape just to like give our brain a break from what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that you're talking about these other, you know, stress management type of techniques. And so, I mean, you and I are both very oriented towards health, so it makes sense that would come up in this conversation as well, and making sure that we are taking care of our bodies right now, in addition to, you know, the breathing technique and focusing on emotions, but also focusing on eating right and making sure that we're getting physical activity, whatever that may look like for us, just to keep our bodies and minds strong. Both are equally important right now. So as a personal trainer, I'm not surprised that this is coming up in our conversation right now as well. So I did want to see if it was possible for you to share your screen with the emwave program and just kind of talk to us a little bit more about that. I know we've been hinting at it, but maybe our viewers can actually see a little bit more of what this looks like. All right, so Allie has pulled up a recent session using the emwave. So emwave's biofeedback mechanism, what it's looking at is heart rate variability. So what that means is it's checking in on the second to second changes in your heart rate. And why that matters is because that is a showcasing of our physiological resilience. So when our systems are in balance, we talked about, you know, that stress response and how our bodies get activated. we can also calm that down as well. So this program is showing us exactly that happening real time. So if we look at the left hand side of Allie's screen, all the way up to about that 3 minute mark, we were just having a conversation. We were just talking. She wasn't really focused on her breath at all. And then we both got quiet and started just thinking about our breathing and really focusing on that cadence in and out and just being very neutral, or maybe going into that little bit of a happy place. And you can see the dramatic shift in that pattern. So you can notice how it's very consistent, it's very smooth. That's giving us a live shot as to what's happening within our body. So that's the power of this emwave and what it shows us real time by influencing our breath and our emotions. So, Allie, is there anything that I left out that you want to add in as part of this emwave in your little little synopsis here?
Right, right. I think that for me, it's really beneficial. When you look at that 3 minutes on, I'm still a little erratic, slightly, but the difference is you can definitely see the difference. But I also, so not only am I breathing in a certain way, but for me, it's placing myself in somewhere that I love. So like having thoughts of being in the mountains, or being at the beach with my kids and my husband. So really things like that matter. They matter emotionally, they matter in this as well. So physiologically, you're really setting yourself up to do better, with your breathing, with your resiliency, with your coherence, if you kind of take those things into account as well. So
Nice.
it's
And I
something I
should
like to
point
do.
out this very fashionable earpiece that you have on, that your
Yeah,
sensor is how we take
yeah,
how the M wave gets that response from your heartbeat in order to translate that into this program. So thank you so much for sharing that.
yeah.
And again, like super, super grateful for your time. Is there anything that you want to share that we didn't talk about before we close out this interview session?
Goodness, I I just really, let's see. Sorry, I'm gonna stop presenting here.
It's okay.
Yeah, this is a great resource, a great tool for everybody, anybody and everybody. It's something that we do every day. Again, I mean, I said that earlier, but it's something that we do every day, and we can all focus on a little more, and it can pay dividends, not only for our lives, of course, personally, but professionally, and with our families as well. We can just, it can our battery can be charged. That's another example I like to use. Like, you have all these drains, your battery's being drained by all these things every day, but we need a recharge, and this is how we can get that recharge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if people are interested in becoming a peer coach like Allie, they can definitely go to the website and email info@standfastalliance.org to be our force multipliers out in the community, sharing about this really awesome tool, but more importantly about the art and the science of self-regulation. So again, super grateful for your time, Allie, and continue to be awesome at what you're doing. We really appreciate having you as part of
Thank
our
you.
team. And for now, we will close out this interview, and we'll talk to you again soon.